Hey, what's up guys? So I've got a little bit of a project list I want to do. I want to do some work on the putting green, and so we're about the middle of September. Our temperatures have finally come off of the 100-degree temps, and we're starting to be in the high 80s throughout the week, and fall is starting to kind of come our way. And so what I want to do is I've got the verticutter loaded into the Toro, and I want to go through and do some verticutting across the putting surface to create sort of a seat bed so we can do some overseating on the putting green. And that'll just help create a more dense canopy, but it'll also help recover some of the areas that have struggled a little bit in the heat that we get here in Texas. And secondly, the last thing I want to do is, you guys have seen my putting green collars. I've got some areas that just are not doing well. I've actually got a lot of Bermuda grass that has started to creep in on the putting green, and it's my own fault because early on when I started building this putting green, I didn't do a good enough job of getting all the Bermuda grass killed out, and it has just started to make its way on the surface. So we're going to go in there with some Roundup and kind of spray some of that out, and that'll allow us to do some reseeding there on the collars and get some more of that to grow in this year in the coming season, so that way everything will be looking nice again. So this area right down through here is where I told you earlier in the summer that my neighbor had a painter come through and stain his fence, and he blew a whole lot of stain out here on this bent grass, and it just killed everything down along the fence line. So I'm going to kind of dig this up and turn the dirt around and try to put some nutrition in it to kind of help make a nice seed bed there. And so right along in here, you can see where it starts right up in here. I've just got a lot of Bermuda grass that has come up down along the side here, and it's just my fault for not getting it all out in the beginning. But what has happened this summer is you can see in areas down here on the putting surface, because I wasn't paying attention to it, it started to creep in, so it's starting to try to take over down here. So I really just want to come in here and do some Roundup, get rid of some of this area right here, and just kind of start over and put some bent grass seed down. So that's kind of the plan. It makes me nervous as can be to do that, but I think I can do it in a way that I won't damage the playing surface. But I just think it's time to do it. You know, that stuff's been there for a long time, and it's starting to creep in on my putting green, and it's just need to get a handle on it. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to go mix up a gallon of Roundup and hope for the best here. All right, so like I said, we're going to mix up some Roundup here. I'm going to mix up a gallon of it. And don't waste your money on the name brand Roundup, because it's actually a very low concentrated amount of product, and that's why it doesn't work that well. You know, they've got their baseline Roundup, then they've got their like all-season control Roundup, which has a higher amount of product in it, but it still is not near as concentrated as what you can get. So the active ingredient in Roundup is glyphosate, and that's what this is. You can get this from Home Depot, their HDX brand. It's just a gallon of glyphosate, and it is far more concentrated than what you're going to get out of Roundup. So 41% glyphosate is in this jug. So that's, if you look at the comparison, like I think they had like a Roundup Max or some, I don't know what they call it nowadays, but whatever that one is, it almost has that much concentration in it. And so this stuff costs a fraction of what name brand Roundup does. So just get you some glyphosate. That's all you need. If you buy it online, buy it in some box store or whatever, glyphosate is all it is for Roundup. It works far better than buying the actual Roundup brand. So I'm actually going to go a little heavy on this. I'm going to go 4 ounces per gallon because I'm trying to do this in a short time frame while the temperatures are perfect here in September. You know, normally you spray Roundup and you end up having to wait about a week or two for everything to permanently kill everything. So I'm going to go at 4 ounces. Hopefully it'll knock this stuff down in a couple of days where I can start doing my renovation on it. And there's also a spot where my neighbor knocked a tree down earlier in the year, and it still has suckers and roots that are trying to come up over there as well. So I'm hoping that this will go in on that tree and kill the rest of what's trying to come up over there as well. So 4 ounces is what I'm going to use there, and I'm going to mix in some surfactant. And all this stuff does is it helps it stick to the plant. So for glyphosate, it says to use a tablespoon per gallon. So obviously you can shake this stuff up real well, but using one of these little mixing wands works really great for doing stuff like this. Make sure it all gets stirred up. had, I think, some Tifway 419, and not neighbor, but the original owner really didn't take care of it very well. So that's why I decided to come in here and do the putting green. When you're doing stuff like this, you gotta be real careful. Pay attention where you step, because you get down the bottom of your shoe, then you're gonna have dead shoe prints everywhere on the putting surface. So I'm trying to pay real close attention to that. So that's gonna do it for that roundup, guys. I hope that stays put. I hope it doesn't bleed into the putting green, but you know, if it happens, it happens, but it's just time to take care of it. So next part on the project list is I want to get the verticutter put on the Toro, and I want to cut some slits here in the putting surface so that we can do some overseeding with some more bent grass. And I want to help try to, you know, fill in this area back here that's really given me a lot of trouble growing over the years, and just see if we can make this whole thing a lot nicer for next season. And so I've got a nice little window here in September. We're still in the high 80s and soil temps are still really warm, so I should be able to germinate this stuff before our real fall hits in October. So I'm really hopeful this is going to turn out really great here before too long. All right, so we took our first pass with the verticutter and it got down a little bit, but I need to take it a little bit lower so we can get some seed down on the soil. So what it does, if you've never seen a verticutter before, it cuts these little grooves into the surface. And so that's what we're gonna work on, is trying to get that down and get that to open up a little bit. So that way we can go ahead and put some more bent grass seed down on it. So let's go take another pass at it. I'm gonna take it down just another few clicks. So every 12 clicks of this adjustment's 1 millimeter. So I was at 1.5 millimeters. I'm gonna take it down to 2, below 0. That'll be real close to an 1/8 inch, which is pretty common, I think, for a lot of what golf courses do. They do an 1/8 below on things. So I'm gonna take it down another 6 clicks, and we should be set. Alright, so that's got the verticutting done. I know that looks terrible. It tears stuff up. But if you get down here close, you can see more of what I'm talking about. See all those grooves? So now we've got a nice seed bed prepared for putting some overseeding in there. So that's going to make a huge difference here in the, I don't know, probably 3 weeks, all through September, 1st of October. We'll stay in the 80s, so I'll be able to germinate this pretty well. And this whole thing is going to just come in nice and thick and help recover some of these spots that we've had through some of the heat stress, and just, you know, just kind of a routine thing I like to do every year. Just kind of verticut it, open up the canopy, get all that turf to stand up right, and put some new grass seed in there. So now we got the grooves cut in, let's go get the grass seed and let's put some down. All right guys, so I've talked to you a little bit before in a video about planting bent grass seed, but today we're doing an overseed of bent grass seed. And so for that, you only need about a pound of seed per 1,000 square feet. And this area here is about 550 square feet on this putting green. So we only need about half a pound. And so something I've talked about before is you can use a spreader like this, a little hand spreader, But the problem I have here in West Texas is on windy days, and it's breezy today. You guys, I know you can hear that wind rustling in the trees. Is when it's breezy like this and you go and start flinging this stuff out, the wind just moves it everywhere, and it's just kind of a hit or miss on where the seed lands. So what we're gonna do is, I've got these little cans that I've poked a bunch of holes in. We're gonna load our seed up into these jars, and then we're just gonna shake it out and just walk it back and forth, because it's not a large area and it won't take very long. But that way I know that the seed's getting down where I want it to, and I don't get all this randomness from the breeze moving the seeds around, because these seeds are so tiny. I mean, look how small that stuff is. So you can see just by doing that, the breeze is catching it and blowing it around today. So we just want to make sure we get everything down in these grooves that we've cut, and it'll really help this stuff have a successful overseeding. I'm gonna go get some starter fertilizer. I'm gonna throw it out by hand and just do a light spoon feeding of it everywhere. And then we're gonna roll this surface, and this project will be done. All right, so we've done the verticutting, we've got the bent grass seed down, we've got the starter fertilizer down. So the last thing we're gonna do is take the roller and roll it across this surface to just kind of close up all those slits that we cut, and it'll just help encase that seed and make good seed soil contact. Let's take this roller, let's roll this thing out, and I'll have this project wrapped up. So you can see right here, this area that we rolled, you can see how the surface is closed up. Over here you can still see the grooves with the seed and the fertilizer. So that's why using that roller is a good idea to help close all that up. That way everything makes good contact. So that's going to do it for this little project. Here in about 3 days or so, I'm hoping that Bermuda grass will start to die. And in the next video, we'll come in, we'll dig out the rest of these little collars here and do some seeding on these to get these going again. But the last thing I'm going to do out here is I'm going to come out here with the water hose. I'm going to water all this starter fertilizer in by hand, just to make absolutely certain that there's no way it's going to burn any of the putting surface, because we've got a couple of hot days where the temps are going to spike up again this week. So I just want to make sure to get all that watered in. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. You know, if you haven't already liked this video, drop me a comment, let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you got any questions about any of the overseeding you're doing this fall. But I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bermuda grass is a tough thing to kind of get rid of. 4 ounces of Roundup, that's what I want to go with here. And the last part of the puzzle,
okay, we're going through this.